Tepache is a Mexican fermented pineapple drink with a beautiful complex flavour, and I first tried it while I was out doing a pop-up restaurant in Mexico City. It's delicious in its own right served cold as a drink, but it's also something that I use almost like a seasoning in some of my sweet courses to add depth and complexity and a little hint of fermented flavour. It's really easy to make, and I'll show you how to do that in this video, as well as how I use it in a couple of dishes. While I was out cooking in Mexico, I first had tepache in one of the giant vibrant Mexican food markets, and it's one of the things that stuck with me from my time there doing the pop-up. There were a number of things from cooking in Mexico that ended up having quite a big influence on how I approach dishes and think about working with flavours. And now tepache is something that I always have on hand, and I might reach for if I'm looking to add a little bit of magic and complexity to sweet dishes. The range of ingredients that we use now in sweet courses is more varied than ever, and people's palates are more sophisticated. It's not too unusual now for pastry chefs to be using fermented products and ingredients more associated with the savoury side of the kitchen, so vinegars, misos, blackened fruits and vegetables, to add contrast and complexity to sweet dishes. For example, I have a video on how I use miso in my caramelised white chocolate ice cream recipe, and I'll put a link to that in the description. So now I'll take you through how I make tepache, and then once we've gone through that, I'll give you a couple of examples of where I use it within dishes on my tasting menu. So to make the tepache, first of all, we're going to make a syrup with 50 grams of muscovado sugar and 600 ml of water. Just stir them together until the sugar's fully dissolved. Then we're going to pour that over 300 grams of pineapple cut into chunks with the skin still on. Now we pour our muscovado syrup over our pineapple and leave this to ferment in a suitable covered container. It generally takes about 4 days to ferment, for me in the UK at least, but it can vary a little bit depending on the weather. A little less time in the height of the summer, perhaps a little more time in the winter. You're looking for it to reach the point where it's lightly carbonated, still sweet, and just has a slight note of fermentation. Then we can strain off the liquid and discard the pineapple, or freeze that to use in other cooking. And that's your tepache ready, so you can then drink it as it is, or you can go on to use it in dishes. This fermented passion fruit glass is one element where I use it as a little background boost to the flavours. I just add about 10% tepache to this mixture, which gets thickened with pectin and then dehydrated to make the fruit glass. I'm going to do a full video on the technique I use for making fruit glass, so you might want to hit subscribe to make sure you don't miss that when it comes out. Here is the glass in the finished dish: distilled Scotch bonnet and fermented passion fruit. It's a dish with only two elements: a sphere of ganache made with a double fermented chocolate in which the cocoa beans are fermented in passion fruit pulp before the chocolate's made, and then flavoured with low temperature vacuum distilled Scotch bonnet spirit, which has all the floral aromas of the chilies but no actual heat due to the way that I vacuum distill it. Again, this is a big enough topic for be a video of its own in the future. Because this dish is just the ganache and the fermented passion fruit glass, the flavours have to be really captivating and striking, and using a little bit of the tepache in the recipe helps me to achieve that. I also use tepache in an iced tea that I serve on the side as part of a dessert on the menu. To be honest, to call it an iced tea hides some of the intricacies and complexities behind it. So it's a cold infused tea made using osmanthus, a Chinese flower with a lovely kind of tropical flavour. And then I also use some low temperature distilled osmanthus in the recipe as well to really boost the flavours. Then I add a little bit of acidity from calamansi, and the tepache in the recipe helps to really bring these flavours together and unite them. It's a lot of work for something that's essentially a side element to accompany a dessert, but it's got such a beautiful, unique, magical flavour. I think it really brings something beautiful to the dish. Do have a go at making this, it's so easy and delicious, and let me know if you experiment with using it in any dishes or cocktails. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.